With all this snow and ice, we want to get you some tips to stay safe on the roads and around the house. Derek Wing from Pemco Insurance joins us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, it's cold, it's snowy, and it's icy out there. For everyone who is driving on the snow, what are some of the common things that people do wrong, especially when they find themselves slipping and sliding?
Sure, yeah. So we've got a bunch of advice just on a lot of different things. The first one is what to do when you hear the phrase steer into a slide. I don't know if you've ever heard that if you're kind of, fishtailing out of control. And, I think that's a pretty confusing phrase, especially when you're trying to remember it in an emergency. So instead of that, we like to say at Pemco, steer in the direction that you want the front of the car to go. So, for instance, if you're taking a left turn and you feel the rear tire sliding to the right, it means the front of your car is now pointing to the left. The first thing that you want to do is ease off the brake or the gas and resist that urge to hit the brake hard. Next, you want to bring the car back to the center of the lane, then turn your wheel gently to the right, or in other words, go in the direction that you want the front of the car to go. Start to straighten the wheel once the car is responding, and then once you're in control again, make sure that you're slowing down for the conditions.
Derek, I have totaled a few cars in my day, and one time was because of slippery, icy conditions, and when you hit that brake, you really take off. It's the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah, it's really, it's kind of almost sort of counterintuitive, right? Like your instincts say, okay, hit the brakes really hard, but actually that's the last thing you want to do. You actually want to kind of stay in control. You want to take your foot off the brakes. So it's hard to remember that especially in a time of emergency, but that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you got to slow down and think about it, even though you're a little panicked because you're losing control of your car. All right, what about parking? I mean, parking on some of these hills and these streets in Seattle is challenging on a beautiful, clear summer day. How do you do it when it's snowy and icy?
Yeah, so if you have the option of parking your car in a garage, that's probably the best option. But if you are out on the street and on an incline of some kind, you want to turn your wheels so you're braced against the curb, and that's especially critical, as I said, if you're on a slope. I've got a quick story about that. Our driveway has an incline, and I had parked my car on the ice and went inside for dinner, and then came outside to walk the dog, and the car had slid 3 feet backwards almost out into the street. So yeah, and I did not turn the wheels to the side, so that was a great learning lesson for me.
Absolutely. You're speaking from experience. Okay, so there are a lot of people who are home right now, have lost power or may lose power the next couple of rounds of snow and wind that are coming our way. What's your advice for people who are using generators, thinking about getting one? What's your advice?
Well, I think that, everyone has probably heard don't run a generator in the garage or a porch or anything like that. But there are a couple of other things that we wanted to pass along, such as make sure that you point the exhaust away from your house and your neighbors' houses. Never run a generator unless you have a carbon monoxide detector in the house. And here's an important one. You just want to make sure that you don't overload the generator. So you want to look for a wattage label on all the appliances that you plan to run and just kind of add them up. And if your number is higher than what the manual says for the generator, eliminate one of the appliances that you plan to run. And because if you overload, you could damage your appliances or even create a fire hazard. Last thing, just check your extension cord and make sure that it's made for outdoor heavy-duty use. Ideally, you want to use one that's especially for generators.
Absolutely, something that can get wet and won't cause a big problem. Okay, Derek, we're looking at video right now of all the roads that are covered in snow and ice and slush. Yeah. I hit an icy part in my neighborhood that I didn't even see until I got right on it and my headlights could show me all the ice, and then I started slipping. Inevitably, people are going to get into crashes, fender benders, having some problems. What's your advice if someone has some damage and they need to file a claim?
I would say at this point, especially in these kinds of conditions, just don't delay. Even if it's on the weekend, call your insurance company as soon as possible or file a claim online if your insurance company has that option, because you want to go ahead and get your claim started. Unfortunately, you are probably, or we are probably not the only ones that are going to be filing claims at this time, because like you said, there are going to be a lot of little fender benders or worse. And so you want to get your claim into the system because it takes a while to get auto body shops set up, or, if something happens to your home, you want to get contractors out there to fix water damage or remove trees and things of that sort.
Some really great advice out there. Derek Wing from Pemco Insurance. We'll post that advice on our website at q13fox.com as well. Derek, thanks for joining us this morning. Be safe.
Thanks. Yeah, you as well. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.